Welcome to Showdown. I'm Mark Kaysen, and it is November the 14th. And that is 9 days past an election that honestly has the right wing really confused. And you know, it's funny because they won. They did win the election. That they have a problem accepting the win. They really do. And as much as they have a problem accepting it, Donald has a problem tenfold worse than his supporters have in accepting the win. And let me give you an example with Donald. Forget, I'm not gonna psychoanalyze all the voters. I realize they've got difficulties because they're dealing with a lunatic who they would like to think is the president. I mean, yeah, he's the president of the United States. That's true. He won the election, but he's not normal. He's a very sick man. And, you know, it's so easy to see how sick he is almost every day. I mean, you just look at what's happening now with this cabinet situation. How did he end up getting this way? You know, he started out with this idea that he would have Marco Rubio be Secretary of State. And everybody on the left really looked at it and said, this is a pretty reasonable position. Not a bad idea. You know, Marco Rubio, okay, he's hardline. It's true that he's switched his positions around a bit in order to fit in with Donald because he didn't like being pushed out the way he was. And then he changed, and Donald embraced him because Donald doesn't care. He doesn't care who. He'll take whatever support he can get from anywhere, he'll take it. He doesn't care. But now you can't play with him. You got to really come in all the way. You know, like Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio. Yeah, both of them are great examples of people who said that Donald was a con man, that he was, you know, a dangerous person, not qualified to be in the office. Throw in J.D. Vance. Really, J.D. Vance. The man who said that Donald is the American Hitler. But you see, here's the thing. If you find redemption, Donald's willing to allow that. You know, if you say, I'm sorry, and you mean it, you know, it comes across like you mean it, Donald will accept it. But see, if you do Nikki Haley, that won't work. You can't do it halfway. You can't try to maneuver the situation. That won't work. He won't do that. I mean, he's not smart, but he's at least that smart. But see, you take Lindsey Graham, he has so embarrassed himself in front of the world. He has demeaned himself by saying the things that he said and then turning around and reversing so thoroughly that everybody realizes that he's a joke. And so Donald can accept that. See, Nikki Haley doesn't want that. Nikki Haley wants to be respected. She wants to be seen as somebody who has, made some kind of a deal here in her own mind, not a deal with Donald, but she's made a deal in her own mind to accept a man who she knows is not qualified to be president because she has other ambitions for herself. She felt, I guess, if she completely walked away from Donald Trump, that 4 years from now, she'd have no chance to run for president of the United States. And that's what she wants. So it's pretty clear what it takes to get back in good graces with Donald. You have to be so embarrassing. You have to be embarrassingly obsequious. I love that word for how Donald's former critics have reversed and then come back and become different people in a way that makes not Donald look crazy, but makes them look crazy. I mean, how do you call Donald Trump the American Hitler and then say, never mind? Yeah, you can't do that. Because if you do, it looks as silly as the original Saturday Night Live skit where they did that. It was funny because it was ridiculous. And it's ridiculous. If Donald Trump was the American Hitler a year ago, he can't be okay today. Hitler's not, it's not a name that you can just throw around and have nothing there. I mean, it's got to be a meaningful thing if you say it. And if it's meaningful, then you can't reverse it. You can't turn around and say Trump said that Hitler was great, and not, by the way, not like Farrakhan. Farrakhan said he was an evil genius, that Hitler was. See, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a different kind of deal. We're saying that Donald Trump is Hitler-esque in a way that, for example, involves migrant detention centers. I was on a show this afternoon, and I was talking about the migrant detention centers, and the first thing that the person said was amazing, actually. Obama did it. Now, I know that Obama deported some people, but we know that Donald is different. Obama sent some people out of the country, and he had some reasons. At the same time, he was encouraging the DACA people to stay here, to fit in, to do the things that good citizens would do in order to become good citizens. But you see, when you put people into these camps, see, that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable at all. It's really bad. It's un-American. By the way, you can see my dogs here. Yeah. I mean, I'm up, and by the way, I'm in Jefferson City, working with some students on some things, and so my puppy wanted to come up here and say hi to you. But look, here's the deal. Obama wasn't being Hitler, but Trump is. You know, when you talk about poisoning the blood of America, see, you could say it once, you could say it one time, and then say, "Oh, you know, I didn't realize that was Hitler," and then move on and don't say it anymore. But see, if you say, I don't know, I didn't know that's Hitler. I never heard of Hitler. I never saw Hitler. I never heard. I don't know anything about him. See, you start that game. That's not going to work. That's first. And then the second thing is, and this is, you know, Trump, this is the way it's a sickness. He says, poisoning the blood of America. And these are black people coming from Africa. Well, in the first place, why keep talking about poisoning the blood of America when you know it's Hitler's words? Don't do it. Don't use those words. But instead of that, he intentionally uses those words. So you know that he's trying to mess with you. He thinks it's funny, actually. He thinks it's funny that you accept him when he's doing things that are totally unacceptable. But he'll do it forever. At least for 4 more years, if he can get 4 years. If he can get 4 years. Because, you know, I've been talking just last couple of days, and I was talking this afternoon on the air, that it's a very good chance this guy might not make it. You know, Richard Nixon, you know, 1972 to 74. This may be 2024 to 26. I mean, we'll see. I can't predict what it is that Donald will do, but I can say this. He'll do something. That I know. He'll do something horrible. And one of those things, if it's criminal, well, that's another story. And he's got so many criminal things attached to him. And then again, people say, well, Jack Smith even has given up on this. No, Jack Smith just is walking away because he knows there's no more lawsuit from the United States government against Donald Trump on federal charges. It's not going to happen. So if it's not going to happen, then just get out of Dodge on this one, because it's over. But it's not because Donald didn't do it. It's not because we wouldn't like to get him, but you just can't get him. The United States government, under the best of circumstances, wouldn't allow it. And under the worst of circumstances, which is fascism, it's certainly not going to happen. So time to move on. Now we're going to see what happens with Merchan. Judge Merchan can put that case on hold for 4 years, and he can come back in 4 years and slam this guy in jail. Will he? I don't know. I mean, I would hope so. I would hope that Merchan would see that he's got an obligation. He's got the only trial where a criminal conviction put Trump where he belongs, which is in a guilty position. He's guilty. Found guilty on 34 counts of felony. Serious business. Now, it's not serious enough to keep him in jail on the first sentencing, unless, and that's the key here, unless the judge thinks that there's a case for, number one, a lack of contrition, and number two, a good chance that this person is going to commit more crimes. And I would say that both of those are going to be the case, and then Donald would get prison. Okay, let's go with Greg here for a minute. Obama had the cages, not Trump. That's what everybody on the Republican side says, and it's just not true. Obama didn't put people in cages. Okay, the second thing is your word camp is the twisting. How about detention area or immigration waiting center? See, but that's not what they're doing. Listen to Bannon. Listen to Stephen Miller. Listen to the people who are going to do this job for Trump. These are migrant detention centers. That's his word. It's not mine. He's calling it a migrant detention center. He wants you to know what he's going to do. That's the truth. He wants you to know. He doesn't want to hide it. He wants you to know exactly what's going to happen. And then he wants you to accept it. And that is Hitler-esque. How about the Massachusetts governor and the lieutenant governor's news? You're going to have to tell me. I don't know. So illegal immigration is recreational travel out of country. No one said that. Look, illegal immigration is when people try to come to the United States in order to have a better life and participate in the American dream, because the countries that they live in are terrorizing their people, threatening them, leaving them homeless, with no food, with no chance to take care of their children. They know the United States is here, and they want to come. And we used to let them come. At least up to a point we did. And then we got tougher about it and made the laws more difficult. And in the end, we don't even want to let them have a chance for anything. We just want to send them back. Now, I understand some people say they are criminals. They have committed crimes, violent crimes. They slit people's throats on the way to the supermarket. I mean, you can hear all that talk. You know that's not happening. I mean, again, I got one of those things this afternoon where I got an anecdote. Some person was killed by an immigrant. Well, of course. People are killed by anybody. There are people out here who kill. But if you look overall at immigrants, they're absolutely not the ones who are committing these crimes. They're not murdering. They're not selling drugs. They're not stealing children. They're not trafficking women. They're trying to find a job. They want to send some money back to their homes. They want to take care of their families here. They would certainly like to get their kids into school. They all want to do the right thing. How is it that my granddaughter's Mexican grandparents can visit family in Mexico without issues, doing it the right ways. Look, if you allow people to do it the right way, there wouldn't be any problem at all. When you say the right way, here's what you do. You vet them. They come across the border, you vet them. You find out who they are. You write down their information on a card. You keep track of where they go. You give them help. I mean, you don't write them down on the card so that you can punish them. You write them down on the card so that you can help them. Now, somebody's going to say, we don't have the money for it. I'm sorry. We have the money for everything. We really do. We can afford absolutely anything that we want to do. We can borrow money anytime we want. Massachusetts governor and lieutenant governor news conference said to Massachusetts residents to open their doors to illegal immigrants. Oh, I didn't even know what you were talking about, because I've heard that. There are a lot of people talking about that. There are a lot of people who are saying, let's help these people. Let's help them avoid what Donald Trump is trying to do to them. Because what Donald Trump is doing ultimately will be murder. And so what am I supposed to say about what you're telling me? Because somebody in Massachusetts wants to help some immigrants, then what? They're not taking it out of government money, I can tell you that. In fact, none of these immigrants are getting government money. They're coming here and they're finding ways to work. That's what they're doing. They're getting jobs. They can't exactly pay taxes, because if they pay taxes, then they've got a problem. Somebody will grab them up and take them back. Now, you could make it possible for them to pay taxes. You could make it easy. But we don't want to. We could make them legal, but we don't want to. This is Hitler-esque. Because we can both agree, Greg, cross the border, give your information, keep in touch with the government, let everybody know where you are and what you're doing, and get help. Get help in becoming a productive, positive impact on America. No one's saying you shouldn't do that. No one's saying, open the border to drug dealers, let them in. No, that's not what we're not saying it. No one's saying it. What we're saying is, open the borders and let people in, and let's keep track of what they're doing to help them, not to punish them, not to throw them away. We want to help them. That's the point. And we can help them. We can make a huge difference. We can make a huge difference on the whole world. And we can benefit the United States in the long run, because you're going to produce lots of young people that become families. They have children. Their children become young American families. They speak English. They get normal jobs. They go to college. Send them to college. I mean, if you're going to take people over here and you're going to block them from becoming educated, well, of course you're going to have a problem. Or, and this here was a thing from this afternoon, there was talk about that I was saying bad things about rural Americans. No, I'm not really. I'm just saying this. Encourage them to get an education. Don't tell me they can't afford it, because a lot of times they have very low incomes, which means they qualify for $9,000 Pell Grants. That's free money to go to college. You go to a community college, you get a 2-year education, and then you move on to higher levels, and you get scholarships and various kinds of help, and it can be done. Now you could do it a better way. There's a better way than that. All you have to do is just pay for everybody to go to college. That's all. Just do it. The United States has done it before, and it's worked marvelously. We sent GIs to college, and it produced one of the greatest periods of economic growth in the history of the world. I say this all the time. I repeat the story over and over, and somebody says to me, well, the people you're talking about, they didn't go to war. Well, okay, so what? So they didn't go to war. So we can't help them to get educated when we know that those educated people will benefit us as a society? Why wouldn't we do that? What are we afraid of? What's going to happen? We moved from Hitler to Stalin. Listen, Hitler and Stalin both killed millions of people. So there's a lot of reason to compare the two. Everybody isn't exactly the same. So there's some differences. In Russia, the Russian people hated Stalin back in the 50s when Stalin died. They didn't want him anywhere. Today, they love him. They revere him. And the reason is because they say that Stalin saved the world from Hitler. So, yeah, you got a lot of interaction going on between fascists here. But the truth is that FDR and Churchill and de Gaulle and others around the world defeated Hitler. They did. And nobody is saying that you have to idolize them. But the truth's the truth. Now, Stalin added to the assistance against Hitler. Well, of course, they had a non-aggression pact, and when Hitler violated it, then Stalin jumped to our side. I mean, how many people even have heard of any of this? That's one of the problems too. Nobody even knows what happened, let alone what the comparisons might be. I mean, it's not even close. Some people can't even tell you what year any of this happened. They can't even get close. I mean, if you said to somebody, what year was World War II, and they said 1936 to 40, they'd be wrong. But at least they'd be close. But people can't even get close. You can ask people this question, and they'll tell you 1985. I'm just saying, we need to educate our country. And we're nowhere close. We're nowhere close, and we're not trying. And we need to try, because without education, we're doomed to what happened to Germany. There's just no way around it. We're buying into it as a country right now. Not 75%, but neither was Germany 75%. Germany was 35%. In the United States, the people who are fighting our Hitler, who are joined with our Hitler, are what? 49 to 51%, somewhere in there. You realize in this last election that Kamala lost by an inch. By an inch. She lost by 1% in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Those were the three places where she had to win. She lost by 1%. Okay, Greg says, give me half your paycheck to make us equals and half your yard. I don't know what your point is, Greg. This is what I teach to my kids at school. Nobody's going to give up their stuff. So I don't know what you're even talking about. We don't give up our stuff. Michael says, we can't teach history anymore. Someone will get their feelings hurt. And that is the absolute truth. That is one of the biggest things that we're doing, is that we don't want to hurt the white kids' feelings. And, you know, I'm going to say it that way, and I know it upsets some people, but, you know, some little white kid explained to me why they can't have their feelings hurt. I know that we teach all about the Holocaust. And if the Germans' feelings are hurt, I guess that's too bad. They did it. They did it, and we tell about it. Do you know what American heard? Stalin died. I don't even know what that means. I think you might have to get an English class. Michael, who cares about reality? Well, that's right. No, that's exactly what the problem is right here. People don't want to know. Well, one of the problems is, and I joke about this all the time, but you talk about genius. Steven Spielberg was a genius. How in the heck did he know in 1985 that Donald Trump would in effect be the American Hitler, fascist, crazy? I mean, he did a whole movie about it. And of course, the only way to stop him, to stop Biff, who was Trump, the only way to stop him was to burn the sports scores. Okay, that was a funny routine. But 40 years later, it turned out that that was exactly true. That Biff was a maniac. And the only way the movie put him back where he belonged, which is so funny because in the end, he was back waxing the truck. And that's where Donald needs to go. And I got to tell you, he is going to go there. He's not going to end well. He's going to end with this country in a terrible mess. And it's going to be his fault, because not only can't he fix anything, but there isn't one day that he's ever told the truth. You know, I have people say to me, come on. Are you telling us that Donald Trump has never done anything good? Not anything? Well, guess what? Guess what, Bill Monroe? He hasn't done anything. Nothing right. He has never told the truth. he doesn't even tell the truth when it's to his benefit to tell the truth. I mean, really, Donald could say, here is what we're going to do. We can do it in a nice way, in a positive direction. We can straighten some things out in the country. We can't do everything, but we can do some things. Let's try. Let's start. I'm going to pick some people for my cabinet. You may not agree with them all, but we're going to pick some good people with some background in the areas that we attach them to. And let's see if we can improve this place. That's not what he's doing. First, he picks Matt Gaetz, who he knows has serious problems with sexual misconduct. Again, I was on the air this afternoon and I was told that Merrick Garland refused to prosecute. Well, we're going to find out exactly why Merrick Garland refused to prosecute, because we're going to get a report that's going to go to the United States Senate from the House so that the Senate can make an informed decision about accepting or rejecting Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. It's going to happen. We're going to read that report. And the results of that report are going to be terrible. I mean, we're going to find out what this guy was up to, and it's not good. And that they're going to push him away and they'll get somebody else. But why can't Donald do what he did with Marco Rubio? Find somebody that leans in his direction who is qualified. Tulsi Gabbard is not qualified to be the head of DHS. This defense guy, I mean, all he is a talk show host. I mean, I know lots of talk show hosts. They can't run multi-billion-dollar departments. They've got no experience whatsoever. And he has no experience. Look, we're going to find a way through all this. We really are. But Donald isn't. Donald's going to have a stock market that's going to cave in on his head, and he's going to make it 1,000 times worse because it's going to add on those tariffs, and he's going to get destroyed. And people are going to say things about him. They'll point their fingers like I talked about last night. They'll try to figure out who can we blame, because it won't be Donald. They'll find somebody to blame, but not Donald. Greg says, I agree, Matt Gaetz is not a good choice. Well, you know what? It's not about whether you agree or whether I agree, Greg. It's about whether Donald Trump has the sense to handle anything. And he doesn't. He cannot handle the United States. I was joking today and I said, you know, one of the things about Donald, he's like the only man on the planet that couldn't make money with a casino. I mean, everybody that has a casino makes money. Donald fails. Everything he does fails. The man is a failure. I mean, he said things about Kamala that were just ridiculous. He called her stupid. He called her can't even think of the words at this point. I mean, those words aren't even in my vocabulary. He called her names. I'm not calling Donald names. I'm describing what we know is factual. Every business he's ever had has failed. Every single one. There is no business that Donald ever had that has continued. None. They all fail. I wonder why that is. I mean, we're not talking about half make it and half don't. We're talking about every one of his business. Every one of his businesses is a failure. Every single one. Greg, you see how mistaken that is? Greg says, so I'm a failure because I went bankrupt once. Donald was given hundreds of millions of dollars and has gone bankrupt 6 times. And on top of that, he has never had a successful business. Never. It's never happened. And did you see where that stock of his is going again? It's going the only place it ever could have gone. Down. Back down to $25 a share. Remember, it bounced from 12 all the way to 54 on rumors about Musk and other things, and none of it materialized. And he's all the way back down to 25, and it'll bounce up and down, and it'll go lower and go lower and then go lower until Donald is in negative numbers again. And listen, the report that came out on Donald was that he owed $2 billion. And then the big deal is that his stock, well, at that time was worth about $7 billion. So then he had $5 billion. It's now down to $2.5 billion. So he's got about $500 million now. Another few days, and he'll be negative again. Donald is a failure. I mean, if I tell you that every business he's had has failed, then that makes him a failure. There isn't one that succeeded. I mean, if somebody says, I went bankrupt once. Okay, how's your life? Pretty good. Making the bills, paying everything, doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm fine. Well, then fine. Then you are. Donald has never, listen to what I'm saying, never succeeded in business. People say, well, the United States under Trump was doing pretty well. And Barack Obama explained it perfectly, which I told that story before Barack Obama did. But anybody, including Obama especially, would know. It was Obama's economy, not Trump. It was Obama. Now, I don't know how much credit you can even give Obama, but I can tell you this, it was Obama. Trump did nothing. Trump watched everything go down. Michael says you can just look at his appointees and understand why he's always a failure. And that's the truth. He can't pick qualified people. And when he does, they take one look at him and run as fast and as far as they can go. Anybody who's been with Trump and stuck with him has ended up the same way. Rudy Giuliani. That's it. That's all you have to know. He can't even buy a dinner tonight. And Donald won't send him $20. But you can get dinner tonight, and you know where? Wendy's. Wendy's is at 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road in the Chesterfield Valley. And all of us can go to Wendy's and get a great meal. Not Giuliani, because Giuliani can't pay. 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road. You can start with the wings and the smoked meat. Don't forget those French dips. I know what a French dip is, Greg. I'm dumb, but not that dumb. They're good. And you know, Wendy's has great food. They've got onion rings. They've got hamburgers, cheeseburgers, salads. Lots of great food. Really great restaurant. And the same great food in Defiance. $29.99, South Highway 94. That is Wendy's in Defiance. Great food. Of course, if you're looking for jewels, you'll find the Jewels on Hampton. So that's 4506 Hampton, and that is Jewels on Hampton. They buy and sell jewelry. They buy and sell coins. They give good prices. They're fair. They try to do business with you in a fair way because they want you to come back. And I can tell you right now that Al is just a great business person. He's been there a long time, not 30 years, not 40 years, but he's been there a long time. I believe it's 14, but don't quote me. But anyway, he's been there a long time. He's got a great business. He's a nice person. You will love his jewelry. They will fix your watch. And all you have to do is go to 4506 Hampton, and I promise you will love that jewelry store. You really will. Now, if you're looking for men's clothes, you want to go to the corner of Central and Forsyth in Clayton. And they have been there for 30 years. And that's no joke. They're there because they're great. They're a terrific business. Great suits, great shoes, great shirts, really nice overcoats. Really. You're going to need an overcoat in another day or two. I mean, you've really needed it now, too. I mean, we had rain. We've had cold weather, not icy, but it's heading there. So just take care of yourself. Go to St. Louis Suit Company and get an overcoat, and you'll be happy. Don't forget, if you're getting married, you also want to go to St. Louis Suit Company because they're great when it comes to providing wedding attire for wedding parties. They're very good. They really are. That is the St. Louis Suit Company, 30 years. But 40 years is Telena's. And Telena's is in Creve Coeur on the corner of 141 and Olive, just sort of backed in a little bit off that corner next to the Deerbergs. It's a great Italian restaurant. In fact, I say it's the greatest Italian restaurant in St. Louis. I know a lot of people point to the Hill. But I'm just telling you, they've been here 40 years and people love Telena's great food. Check them out, but don't forget, you don't have to wait till Friday to eat the spaghetti and meatballs. But if it's Friday, you do want the spaghetti and meatballs. I was there last night. I was there pretty late, actually. And I got to tell you, I didn't eat spaghetti, but I did have a great Caesar salad. It was excellent. Everybody knows how Telena's is. Their food is phenomenal. And they've been there 40 years. Go see them in Creve Coeur. That is Telena's. So here we are. Another day and another foolish performance by our upcoming president. I truly feel sorry for him. He just can't make this work. He could. He could even follow his stupid policies if he just get rid of the tariffs. And he could make this work. But I promise you, what these people are planning, ending all of our government agencies, firing all our civil service employees. I mean, where does he get these ideas? It's just ridiculous. How does he even think of this? How does it jump into his head? I met with some people last night, and they were explaining to me that Donald is going to take away the old people's Social Security. Maybe he will. But I will say this, those old people will crawl through video camera screens to get their hands around his neck in a voting booth, because there's no way that this country is going to accept an end to Social Security. We're not going to do it. I know he's talking about taking taxes away from Social Security. So you get Social Security, you don't have to pay a tax. Okay. I mean, I pay a tax, and I'm happy to pay the tax, because in the United States, when you get value, well, you have to pay for it. And we know that we're getting value. We get it from the government all the time. It's one of my favorite things, is to discuss the fact that government is actually effective. Government does a great job often. Mark, do you know why we have plants in America making foreign cars? Hint, it happened before Trump. You know what? I know that we have companies here in America that produce foreign cars in our states. And I never said they have to go. That's you guys. I'm not worried. The United States can create businesses. The United States can pay for the services that we receive through taxes. We can do that. This guy wants to end Social Security. What would be the reason for that? Why would you want to end Social Security? Why wouldn't you just do what you have to do to make Social Security work? Why would you throw tariffs on countries all over the world when every good economist says that those tariffs will really rip apart not only the world economy, but our country as well. It won't protect us from anything. You know that I think the stock market's going to go down, and I do. And I've seen it in the market just the last few days when the S&P and the Dow jumped to new all-time highs, and the advancing and declining issues barely budged. They hardly moved at all. And that's what happens in bull markets that come to an end. And I'm going to tell you, when a bull market comes to an end, it does it in stages. It starts like it's going to end, and then it comes back again. Starts again, then it comes back again. So I'm just telling you, there are some serious economic problems facing the United States, and you're going to see it in the stock market. And we're going to have to deal with it. Trump is going to have to deal with it. And then people will say, what was that story about Trump has a great economy and it never goes down? Oh, it's going to go down. Donald's going to pay a price. Donald can't control himself. Donald has to wreck everything he touches. It doesn't mean that you all who voted for him are suckers and losers. Now, he thinks the military is made up of suckers and losers. But no one should say that you are the same as him. You've just been conned by him. You've been conned by a really great example of horrific behavior. It's so simple. This guy has done bad things and will continue. He doesn't know how to do anything else. This is how he lives. It's always a mess. Haven't you known people like that? I'm sure you have. I know people like that. People who can't do anything right. Nothing. No matter how hard they try. And here's Donald. Got a shot at it. He could have a world economy doing pretty well. Even if you had a little decline in the middle, whatever. He just can't control himself. He can't pick good people for office. He can't come up with policies that would give the United States a chance to compete in the world. He just wants to blow everything up. And he will blow everything up. He'll do it. He'll do it because he's Donald Trump and everything he touches dies. Now, remember to thank the St. Louis Suit Company, Jules on Hampton, Wenty's, and Telena's. Thank them all for allowing this kind of talk on the air. Because you know what? You might learn something. Maybe. You might. Okay, I'll be back here tomorrow again from Jefferson City. Then I'll come home on Monday. I'm Mark Kaysen. This is Showdown. Good night.